What if I told you that this map-based visualization was entirely built in Excel and it can be used for a lot more than just plotting cities and maps and flights? Whether you're trying to track sales by cities, plot your warehouses, locations, customer routes, this can be used in a variety of applications. And the best part is that this was built right into Excel with good old Excel formulas, some layered logic on top of that, and a bit of deceptive creativity. I think I'm done enticing you to watch this video. Let me show you how did I put this together. Let's start. When you take a look at this dashboard, obviously there is a lot going on and you might just feel overwhelmed. But I'm going to break this down into 5 key learnings that are isolated, and when you put that together, you end up with this particular dashboard. So let's just take a look at what are the key ingredients that went inside building this dashboard. The first one is this particular map visual, like creating the map visualization itself. If you don't know how to do it and plot cities on top of that, that's the first thing that we're going to learn. On top of the map visualization, we take it a bit further and build these connectors. So for instance, at the moment we are taking a look at the central location at Jaipur, and from Jaipur you have all of these connectors which are built out and then going on to different cities. This is a special trick and we will talk about that as the second part. The third part of this dashboard is nothing but the scrollable list. So if you want to take a look at all the 25 flights that went over from Jaipur, you can actually scroll down and take a look at all the 25 flights right here, and this is the scrollable list that I have built, and that's going to be the third part of the video. The fourth part of the video is going to be the slicer design. So these are slicers in Excel, and I'm sure if you are an Excel person, you would have worked with slicers in Excel, but these are creative designs of the slicers, and I'm going to talk about that. How do you make your slicers look spectacular? The final part of the video is going to be a secret slicer management trick. So if you have a lot of slicers on the screen, how do you manage all of those slicers and put that together in the same dashboard? It's going to be fun. Let's just start with part 1 of the video, that is putting together the map. In order for us to draw up the map visual, let's just take a look at the bare fundamentals of it. Let me just draw something and hopefully you will understand. Now I'm going to be drawing that with the mouse, so don't beat me up in case the map is not like the actual map. So imagine that we are drawing the map of India, and this is going to be something like this, and yeah, that is the map of India. And let's just say that we are trying to plot Delhi here, which is in the northern central part of the country. Now to be able to plot the Delhi location right here, what I would need is 2 things. We are going to need the latitude here, which is the x-axis, and we're going to need the y-axis, which is the longitude here, and the intersection of this is going to actually help me decide that where is this going to be plotted, the dot, and that's where I'm going to plot Delhi. And therefore I have taken out the latitude and the longitude for all of the cities right here. Now these can be very readily available from Google. You can just go type the name of the city and you are going to get the latitude and the longitude. Obviously you can copy paste them down right here. Generally the latitudes and longitudes are going to be 4 decimals long, but I have truncated that to just 2 decimals. That's all right. Now once you have done that, we would need 2 things. We would obviously need the map itself, the outline of the Indian map, and we are also going to need the latitude and the longitudes, and we have gotten that. Let's just start building the map. So I'm going to go ahead and start to create a blank chart. So Alt F1 in the empty area and I get a blank chart. Now I'm going to make the map taller more than it's wider, so something like this. All right, and once I have this particular map, I'm going to change the type of the map. So right click here and I'm going to say that this is not going to be our usual map, which is a column map right here. This is going to be an XY scatter map. For the moment I'm going to pick up this map, but we will change the map type slightly a bit later. So scatter chart, click on OK, and this becomes a scatter chart. Now in the scatter chart, this is going to be my x-axis and this is going to be my y-axis. So right click on the chart and I am going to go ahead and plot these latitudes and longitudes on the axis. So I'm going to go right here in the select data option. I'm going to start to add the data, and the x values are right here, which is your latitude. Press enter and click on it again, and then this is going to be my y-axis, which is right here. All of these values go inside of the y-axis. Click on OK and click on OK. Now some dots show up, but I doubt that these dots are showing up the right way at the moment. I don't think so. So what we need to do is, in this particular chart, the axis itself is not fitting to the boundaries of the Indian subcontinent. So what we need to do is we need to go to Google and take a look at the 4 boundaries of the Indian subcontinent and plot the latitudes and longitudes from there. So if I just go ahead and scroll out, I am just going to go to the southernmost part of the country, zoom in a bit, point my mouse right here, and this actually tells me what is the southernmost tip and what are the lat and long for that. I can take these values, then I can come to the left right here and plot my mouse somewhere right here, and I can take the values from here, the lat and the long values. Then I can go to the far right of the country, somewhere right here, and I can take the and the long values from here. and then I can just go up on the top and just take the values from here as well. And these are the values right here as well. Once we have taken those values, we're going to use the values to draw up the limits of our axes, both the y-axis and the x-axis. But before that, let's just actually put an outline map of India within the chart itself. So imagine that the outline is going to be somewhere in this particular part, which is the plot area. So I'm going to select the plot area and I'm going to maybe press Ctrl+1 to format that. In the fill, you have the option of attaching a picture, and I'm going to attach an outline picture. If you don't have it, you can take it from this video and then you will have the picture. Once the map has been added, you can obviously take a look that this doesn't look quite right. So I have to adjust it to make it a bit fatter so that it looks naturally the map of India. So perhaps just make it a slightly wider map, and this looks slightly better. And I can also get rid of the title up on the top, and this is going to adjust really well, maybe a bit fatter as well. Now it's the time that we use the axis that we had it initially from Google Maps, and we plot the ranges of the map. That means whatever we saw here, the y-axis starts from that particular point. Whatever we saw here, the y-axis ends at that particular point. Same is the case for the leftmost tip of the country and the rightmost tip of the country as well. So I'm going to go to the axis right here, press Ctrl+1, and then adjust the minimum and the maximum. So here, this is going to be 8 approximately, and then this is going to be 37. And on the x-axis here, I'm just going to maybe press 1. This is going to be 68, and then this is going to be 95, and that's good to go. Now you can see that the cities are somewhere falling within the territory of India, and we have been able to build a map visualization. If you're enjoying this video so far, I'd like to give a big shout out about my courses on Power BI, especially DAX, modeling, and the M language. I teach them in a very structured way. I try to give you the logic of understanding the problem, deconstructing the problem, and then framing the solution of the problem. That logic helps you to understand the problem at hand that we are doing in the course. Not only that, but you can then take the logic and apply it to your own cases as well, which is going to tremendously boost your confidence of solving your own data problems. Hundreds of students have joined my courses and they have benefited a lot. In case you're interested, the link is down in the description. Go back to the video. Now comes the most interesting part, which is where we will try to draw up the connectors that lead from one place to all the other locations where the flight is going. So take a look at this sample data. I'm going to try to draw up the logic in your brain. We will build a small prototype of it, and then you can replicate that on a larger visualization. But this is going to be an absolute fun. Please take a look. So imagine from this particular data, we have extracted a bunch of cities which are right here. And the logic is something like this. That means Amritsar, which is going to be my first city, which is right here. I want to plot that all of these flights are going from Amritsar to Bangalore to Delhi to Mumbai and to Jaipur. Now, if I just try to imagine the visualization or the connectors, they're going to come something like this. So from here, a line is going to come right here, and a line is going to come right here, and a line is going to come right here, and then another line is going to go right here. This is the kind of visualization that I would want. Now, I've already drawn up the map, plotted the cities on top of that. You know how to do that using the lat and the long. We have the map, and the map is just clean at the moment. Now, at the moment, the connectors are not available because the type of the map that we have chosen at the moment is just the scatter plot. It's not scatter plot with connectors. So let's just change the map chart and let's just see what happens. So if I just go ahead and change the type of the chart, so I just go right here and say right click, and I say that I want to change the chart type, and I would say that instead of this chart which has no connectors, I would rather want to have this particular chart which has got connectors. So click right here, I'm going to click on OK, and that's what we get. Now at the moment, this is not quite what I'm looking at, because here what is happening is that obviously you start with Amritsar because that happens to be your first city. Then because Bangalore happens to be your next city, the line actually continues to go from here, and then Delhi happens to be your third city. So it comes back up on the top, then goes right here to Mumbai, and then goes back here to Jaipur. Now, if this would have been a route location, like the plotting of the route, this would have been fine. But since one city is throwing up different flights to different locations, this is not what I want. This is not the right type of a chart. But once I take a look at this actually gives me a hint as to how am I going to make that possible, which is where the lines seem to originate from one location and go out to the other locations, and they're not really connected from one another. So I'm going to try to draw up that logic, and hopefully that will make sense to you based on what I have just taken a look at. So I know that if I try to draw an XY scatter plot chart with connectors, the connectors are connected within the locations and they're not originating from one particular location. That's something that I know, but I can use that to my advantage. Now, the technique that I'm going to do is something like this. So if I want the the location to be this particular location as the central location, and I want the arrows to originate from here and go to other locations, then I'm going to play a trick. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, hey, the next location is going to be Bangalore. So the line is obviously going to go to Bangalore. Now I'm going to say that the line also has to come back. So it has to just come back on top of this line. And because this line is going to be an overlapping line, it would not see that it's broken. Now from here, it will then choose to go to Delhi. So it's still connected, but you're not seeing it. From here, then it will go to Delhi. And then before it goes to the next location, the line also has to come back to the same location, so on and so forth. So now if you take a look, it seems like these two lines are originating from the center location and going to the other locations, which is Bangalore and to Delhi. Now, how do we draw this? What we'll have to do is we'll have to adjust our data in such a way that we also have a data point for the line to come back as well. Let me show you a couple of formulas that I have written in order for that to happen. So I'm just going to move my chart a bit to the right and take a look at this simple data that I have built. Now, at the moment, if you think about it, we have 4 locations, and if you try to draw how many lines are going to be, so we'll have 1 line and then come back of it, which is 2 lines, and then 3 line and 4 line, 5 line, and then 6 line, and 7 and 8. So we'll have total 8 lines, one on top of the other. That will just give you that feel. So if you take a look at this first formula, this is nothing but just a serial number, but the serial number is like a sequence. So I'm just taking a look at from the origination, how many other locations are there. So we have Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, and Jaipur. And if you multiply that with 2, I'm going to get 8 of these lines. As simple as that. Now, if you take a look at the second column, I will have to use some kind of logic that once the line has reached the location, then I have to every alternative line make it come back as well. So I'm just using a simple lambda function and just trying to check that is this odd or is this even? Because if it's even, I have to make the line come back as well. It goes and then it comes back, so on and so forth. So just an odd and even check. Now, once I built the odd and even check, so this is the location of the first city, just plotted right here. Now, once you have done that, the line actually goes, which is goes to the next location. So it goes right here. This is the thing. And then it actually comes back. So if you take a look at this thing is going to be repeated all the way again. And this thing is going to be repeated all the way again. So wherever the line goes, it actually comes back as well. So this is simple index functions. All that I'm doing is if it's a true or a false, depending upon the logic, if the line has to come back, I just use the same coordinate of the first location back once again. Once we have been able to build this particular data, now you're going to see that we have been able to build this point and this point, but we've also been able to build the comeback line. Now, all that I'm going to do is take these lines and switch it over from this data to this particular data, and you will start to see the magic happen. So I'm going to take these plots right here and move that right here, and take these plots and move that right here and extend them. So extend all the way down and extend all the way down right here. Now, if you take a look, it looks just as the way we expected, which is where the lines are overlapped, but you can't see them. So it's going right here, it's coming back, and then it's going right here and coming back, going right here and coming back, going right here and coming back. And this list can be as long as you would want. And this is just going to show you that how the flights are moving from one location to the other. And this is how I built those connectors. Next up on the list is how did I build a scroll bar? Let's just take a look at my Excel. So the first thing that I have done is inserted a scroll bar. If you don't know how to insert a scroll bar, that is available to you in the developer tab. Now, if for some reason you haven't activated the developer tab, you have to do that first. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. Go to the file, and in the file you have options. In options, you are going to go to the customize ribbon right here. And in here, you will see that you have the unchecked developer tab that you can check it. And once you check it, you will start seeing it that on the top. I'm going to click on OK and come out of that. Once you've activated the developer tab, in here, we have to actually work with the form controls. So in the form controls, we are going to build something called as a scroll bar. So if I just maybe select the scroll bar and do that real quick, so you can actually draw the scroll bar something like this, and it appears like this. Now, once you've drawn the scroll bar, we have to adjust the settings of the scroll bar so that it starts talking with the spreadsheet. I'm going to delete this and I'm going to work with the one that I have created. I'm going to right click on the scroll bar and click on format control. Now, once I do that, this gives me the formatting options of the scroll bar. You can see that the cell link is right here, which is this particular cell. That means whatever I do in the scroll bar, this cell is going to be affected, and it has a bunch of values in here that I have to fill in. What is the current value? What is the minimum value, maximum value, so on and so forth. Let me help you understand the logic as to how do we decide these values. So if I just happen to do the cancel here, you can see that in between the scroll bar. So if I just maybe take a look at how many cells are these and just happen to write one across, these are 8 cells that we have. That means once I start to scroll all the values, I am going to have 8 values displayed right here. Now let me just go ahead and see how many values do I have in my table. So if I just go over to my connectors table, and that's the table that I want to visibly present in the scroll bar. If I start from the first value, go all the way down, in my table I have 38 values. So 8 values are going to be visible right here. The rest 30 values are going to be appearing as I move the scroll bar. So I'm just going to go right here and say format control. I'm going to say that start with the first value or the 0th value, and then the maximum value is going to be the 30th value, which is going to come right here, and then the rest of the values can show up right here. When you do the tap of the arrow button, the incremental change is going to be show the next value. But when you hit somewhere in the middle of the scroll bar, that's called the page change, show the next 5 values. That's what it means. I'm going to click on OK, and this works fine. Now at the moment, these are just hard-coded ones. If I just scroll right here, nothing happens. But for the very reason that you're getting the row number right here, I can use these row numbers to pull the row number from my table. And the formula to be able to do that, if I just maybe go right here and delete the 1 and just delete all of this and delete the 1 and write the formula. This is the simple formula. It's going up to this map connectors table that I just showed you a while ago, and it's using these rows function to get the values incrementally if the first row was the 13th row. If I press enter, it's actually showing me the first value go right here. If I drag this down to the rest of the cell, 8 cells at the bottom, this is going to show me the rest of the values. If I scroll up, you can see that it shows me the first value. Scroll down, it shows me the last value right here. At the moment, this is just working on one column, but you can obviously work on more columns and get more columns pulled out using the scroll bar as well. That's simply it. And that's how I built the scroll bar that you saw in the dashboard. The next mysterious thing is that how do you make your slicers absolutely gorgeous and spectacular? Now, when you create a slicer, the general look and feel of the default slicer looks something like this. This is how the slicer looks. And obviously this is not attractive as the one that I made it. This is the one that I made it, and this is the default one. So how do you transform the look and feel of the slicer? Well, guess what? If you make a slicer, you go to the slicer options up on the top, you can actually go ahead and start to customize the slicer. So you can go ahead and right click on the slicer, which is the default. You can duplicate that. So let me just duplicate that. Give it your name. So I'm going to give this my name, so Goodly Style. And you can click on OK. Now, once you have given the name of the slicer, it's going to appear right here, which is the Goodly Style slicer. I can right click on it and I can start to modify it. And if you take a look, there are a whole range of options available to you. If you happen to click on any particular option, click right here and click on format, you're going to see a whole range of options that what is going to happen once a certain condition in the slicer is true. You can do all of that. The only problem is that it actually involves a lot of thought and a lot of clicks to be able to design something which is highly presentable. So the shortcut to do that is that if you take a look at somebody else's slicer, and if they are willing to give you the file that contains this slicer, what you can do is you can literally copy and paste that. And I'm going to obviously give you the file. So if you like my slicer, you can literally copy and paste the slicer, just the slicer, in your Excel file. Once you have copied and pasted the slicer, not only will you get the slicer, either working or not working, doesn't matter, but most importantly, what you're going to get is the style that I have used, copied and pasted. Once you have the style, you can actually click on your own slicer, which is probably not that good. Click right here and then use my style of the slicer. And that's about it. And if you then choose, you can just delete my slicer and be working with your own slicer. Once you have modified the style of the slicer, if you want, for curiosity purposes, you can actually go right here, go to the slicer, take a look at my style, poke around and see that what have I done to modify the style. So you take a look at every single element that I have done, go through these elements and take a look at what have I done to manipulate the style and make it look something like this. The final secret of this video is a nifty slicer management trick that involves a single line of VBA. But let me show you what do I mean by that. So if you take a look at this nice ticked and tight dashboard, it doesn't appear that anything is coming out of the blue. That means that if you take a look at the from, you're going to see the slicers that belong to from. And if you actually change to, you take a look at all the slicers that belong to, and you can then pick up the cities. Now, if you take a look at the back end of the dashboard, which is nothing but the calculation sheet, you're going to see that I have done a lot of calculations to make that happen. And there are individual slicers that belong to the from location and individual slicers that belong to location. Let me show you on the visual what do I mean by that. So if I just go over to my dashboard, if I just happen to move this slicer slicer just a little bit, you're going to see that there is another slicer kept at the back of it, and there is another slicer kept at the back of it, and there is another slicer kept at the back of it. Now there are 6 slicers up on the screen, like 3 here and 3 at the back. So how am I managing these slicers? Now when the slicers are moved, and you can take a look at all the slicers, if I happen to click on the from here, you're going to see that the slicers actually swap positions, and these come up and these ones have gone back. And if you actually swap positions and you say 2, they actually go back. Now how is this back and forth happening? I've written a very simple VBA script for that. But for that, you need to understand that every slicer has a name, and you can pick and modify and move positions of the slicer based on the slicer name. So if you actually select on this particular slicer, you have a slicer right here, option button. You can see that the slicer caption is pick a city. But if you go to slicer settings, the slicer also has a name, which is called destination. And similarly, every single slicer has a name to it. You can pick up the name and modify these objects, slicer objects, in your VBA code. Let me show you what that VBA code looks like. If I happen to right click on the DB sheet and click on view code, I have a very simple view code right here. So if I just happen to go to the calculation sheet, that's where I have written the simple code, and you can take a look at the code. All that I'm doing is that depending upon what I have chosen from here, either it's from or to, depending upon my choice right here, that's my choice option, I am just moving the slicers back and front. So this is move to back, and this is again move to back, depending upon what has been chosen. And then you can obviously take a look at the names of the slicers right here. As simple as that. And once the option button is clicked, and the slicers actually move back. And now I have the option to actually go back and stack the slicers nicely on top of one another. And once the slicers are stacked one on top of another, it looks seamless. I mean, you can just pick up the city, you can pick up the from city and the to city, and you can manage multiple slicers with this beautiful little trick.